if you want to talk about a rising momentum main event player happening, and then all of a sudden an injury happens that stalls it, and then you start to think, what could have been had it not happened? That is definitely what happened to Finn Balor of 2016. You see, he was on the hot reigns of the NXT Championship during his time in NXT. And like I said, I haven't been watching NXT's taped shows because I already know what's going to happen since, well, it's spoiled for me. I mostly just watch the live shows and just read up what happened. And at the time, he was feuding with Samoa Joe, and they would later, and then on NXT Takeover Dallas on April 1st, they would have another match after their first match in NXT Takeover London, which was a which was a good match. But let's get to the second round of their fight. Um, they were fighting, and then all of a sudden, Samoa Joe gets a cut above where his eye's at, and it starts to bleed profusely, and the audience are chanting, "Let them fight! Let them fight! Let them fight! Let them fight!" And also, you have to also hear Finn Balor say, "Hey, let him fight!" Like, the fans and Finn Balor were seeing livid. Like, they didn't like the fact the match was effectively getting stalled at because Samoa Joe was bleeding. And, like, I get safety first, but, like, they have had wrestlers bleed a lot. Like, I know in back then it was staged, it was cutting, as they called it, where they would take some object and somehow cut themselves and let the sweat build up, be able to use their to mask the illusion of bleeding a lot to tell their story. But like I was like, Samoa Joe was a beast that night. He was an absolute beast, able to keep going despite this, and it was fun. It was a fun match. Like it was exactly what I was thinking it would be, a massacre pretty much between Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. And Finn Balor entered the match in his demon persona with a chainsaw, which was awesome. And it turns out Finn Balor said in an interview about a week or so later that originally he had proposed them doing a horse entrance where where he is on a horse and is making his entrance. And whereas Vince would deem it crazy, Triple H says, "Okay, we could try that." So they tried it. They tried to do a horse entrance, however, the horse just wasn't listening, so they had to scrap that idea. But at least I'll give Triple H credit to say, you know what, that's an actually interesting idea. Let's try that. Instead of Vince, who would just look at him crazy and says, "That is just stupid. You're stupid." You know, like when Mick Foley said he wanted to do a fireworks entrance where he goes on Santa's sleigh, which would have been really over the top, but considering it's Mick Foley, I gave it a pass. And Vince just looked at him like he was crazy. Though I would give Vince credit, that would be a crazy idea, but I wouldn't want to deny Mick Foley something like that, probably. Depending on if they were able to do it, that would be the major case, instead of just saying, "You're insane." So afterwards, they continued the feud, and on April 21st, before that, Finn Balor became the longest reigning NXT champion in history, surpassing Neville's previous record at 287 days. And on just a few days later, he lost the title at a non-televised event to Samoa Joe in Lowell, Massachusetts, ending his reign at 292 days. Yeah, can someone explain why that would happen? Like, I was shocked. Like, I was prepared to make a video about it, but then, like, I believe I made a video about it. It's been a while, but, like, I need to look back on that. But I was like, yes, this just happened. Yes, this is real. This shocked me. Like, I wasn't mad that Finn Balor lost the title, but it was more like I didn't see that coming. Like it's a house show. Rarely nowadays WWE really changes the title of house shows unless it's for a suspension plan or something related to suspension or punishment. They don't really change the title of a house show that often for, let's just do it. So it led to one more build up between the two for a NXT steel cage match, the first time ever for a match to happen in NXT, which I gotta praise NXT for not oversaturating the shows with steel cages, with hardcore matches. Like, that would be cool, but I get that they're trying to not oversaturate the product. They want a more focused wrestling product than a hardcore wrestling product like ECW was. which really makes it stand out, whereas WWE seems more focused on entertainment instead of the wrestling, which fans pay to see, and Vince's stupidity regarding his undying hatred for the word wrestling. I'm still trying to process how that's possible, and just rename it sports entertainment. But anyways, they would have a steel cage match, and I said in the thoughts video for that, like, it was okay, it was good, it wasn't really special in anything, but that was to me at least. And it ended with Samoa Joe getting the victory. It was Finn Balor's first loss on NXT Takeover, and subsequently his first loss under his demon persona. And Balor would have 2 more matches in NXT. First, he cut a promo explaining what happens next for Finn Balor, and he hinted that he was preparing to leave NXT since that's kind of the system. If you win the NXT title, you're bound for the main roster after you lose it. So basically, yeah, he's leaving to go to the main roster. Like, the fans were chanting, "See you Monday! See you Monday! See you Monday!" And then, like, Finn Balor even teased it numerous times before it actually happened. Like, he goes on a bus and he pokes his head out saying, "See y'all Monday," when he first lost the NXT title. And I'm like, oh man, you're just a troll on this. Like, I was it was very sweet to see him leave, and like, because I like him in NXT, and considering what they've done on the main roster, yeah, you understand my concerns here. The apparent discrimination towards NXT guys and gals. Luckily, that wasn't the case for this time, though who knows what could have happened had Finn Balor not been injured. Spoilers. So he had 2 more matches. One was with Shinsuke Nakamura after building it up, and it was a dream match for so many people to happen on WWE programming, and NXT delivered. The match lasted at least under an hour. I think close to an hour, because it was the only match on NXT programming on this episode. And that was the first time I watched NXT because I wanted to see Shinsuke Nakamura fight Finn Balor. And I know what's going to happen. Shinsuke's going to win. Finn Balor's going to lose. This is going to be the ultimate farewell moment. And they hug it out and whatnot. I saw this coming a mile away. And then he would show up. And then on July 19th, Finn Balor would be drafted to Monday Night Raw as the 5th overall pick and the first NXT pick of the 2016 WWE Draft on SmackDown Live. And then he made his final appearance in NXT on July 30th, where he teamed with Shinsuke Nakamura to defeat Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe, therefore letting him leave with a high note and heading to main rosterville on the July 25th episode of Raw on his 45th birthday, no less, in which he won the right to compete for the newly created WWE Universal Championship at SummerSlam by first defeating Rusev, Cesaro, and Kevin Owens in a Fatal 4-Way match, and then having a match with Roman Reigns, now who subsequently did win who won a similar Fatal 4-Way match previously earlier in the night. But this was an explosive way to start the show, to start the new era of the WWE Draft, and this was a successful Raw. And then it went all downhill from here afterwards. Like, Raw was doing well, and Finn Balor got injured, and Raw's been basically slowly to a crawl ever since. So Finn Balor would fight Roman Reigns, and it was a hell of a match. I loved it. Like, Roman Reigns can work with the top indie guys. He can work with the main event players, and yet, well, it's Roman Reigns. I can't give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's bash him otherwise. Like, if you hear an article where someone thinks Roman Reigns looks like a serial killer for some strange reason, because, I don't know, free easy money, or because I don't like Roman Reigns, therefore I'm going to bash him on a personal level and make it look like he was some psychopath, then you know there's a problem with the hate Roman Reigns gets, besides the suspension. But we'll talk about that in the Roman Reigns video. So Finn Balor defeats Roman Reigns clean, becoming the 3rd man in WWE to defeat Roman Reigns clean. The first one being Seth Rollins, the second one being Dean Ambrose, and now the 3rd one being Finn Balor, which really shows you're at this level here, kid. You're at this level. No one has been able to defeat Roman Reigns clean in that way. At least since, like, early WWE, in his run, or in NXT, or FCW. But no one's been able to defeat Roman Reigns in his main event status role yet. So, yeah, that was awesome. So this led to a build-up between him and Seth Rollins, who was pretty much given the opportunity at the inaugural WWE Universal Championship, which is the stupidest name I complained about. And it got even worse when I saw the design. But I've ranted enough about that. Um, anyways, so this led to a build-up between Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins even broke character on Twitter, saying like it's going to be the Demon versus the Man, Tyler Black versus Prince Devitt, the Demon versus the Architect, SummerSlam, and I'm like, okay, that was awesome. That was an awesome tweet. I'm liking it. And Finn Balor would show up like a few nights prior on Monday on the final build up to SummerSlam for Monday Night Raw's brand. Finn Balor showed up in his demon persona, which was cool, but when I look at it, I'm thinking, yeah, that really should not have happened. It should have been saved for the pay per view. Like, I get you try to build Finn Balor up, you want to make him look awesome, but really, I wouldn't really have wasted that opportunity to show it on pay per view instead of just wasting it on Raw. Like, I know you need a boost in the ratings war with SmackDown and every other competitor. So, yeah, that was a pretty bad move on WWE's part to waste this debut of the Demon Persona on mainstream television. And, like, it was predictable what was going to happen. At least they would have a match. And also, along with that, Finn Balor also goes on Twitter and does these stand-up poses, which is kind of funny, and then everyone starts to do it, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if I should find that funny or a little creepy, the way he's just smiling like that. But that's a completely different topic. At SummerSlam, we got the match. Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. The Architect, the Man, versus the Demon King. Versus, well, pretty much Bullet Club versus, well, Tyler Black. Which makes me think Seth Rollins would have been a great member of Bullet Club had he stayed in the Indies. But before that match, we actually got a tease of the Bullet Club group. AJ Styles shows up on TV, shows up with his buddies Anderson and Gallows, who were on Raw, who were doing the whole doctor angle, which at first was funny, then was just very depressing. And then they see Finn Balor, he looks at them, smiles, and they do the click pose, finger gesture, and like they say, come on, man, come on, join us, come on. And he just knocks on the table and walks off, and like everyone and the fans just booed, like, boo, we want Bullet Club, they're awesome, which teased that, and sadly we would probably never see that on the grounds that WWE just screwed up Anderson and Gallows. Oh God, I've already talked about them in the AJ Styles video. I will not talk about them in their own video together. So yeah, you cannot see that coming. So Seth Rollins and Finn Balor had their first match together on the WWE, and Seth Rollins lost to Finn Balor. However, he did become the first ever Universal Champion. However, there was an incident in the match. I didn't notice it at first, but when the end of the match happened, I started to suspect something happened. And then we had the confirmation the next day. You see, Seth Rollins did the turnbuckle powerbomb on the barricade, and Finn Balor's arm seemed to have pushed up a bit on top of it, on top of the security barricade, and it seemed to have dislocated his shoulder, because I saw a clip of it showing his shoulder was a little popping out, pushing up against the skin, which was disgusting. And then he popped it back into place, and I'm like, okay, you just cemented yourself as the most badass fighter in the entire history of wrestling right now. Like, I've seen a lot of guys like Kurt Angle finish the Olympics with a broken neck, as a lot of people like to remind people nowadays. Uh, but like to finish, like this is within the first 3 to 5 minutes in the match, and you still have 20 minutes to go. Like, how could you work that match still? Like, I haven't seen that since like the day McFoley got injured in the Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker, and he still kept going. And then it was just impromptu from there on. But now we got this? Okay, that's just badass. And Finn Balor finished the match. He finished the damn match. And like Triple H, he's up there now with McFoley, Triple H, Kurt Angle, and a variety of other wrestlers whose name I do not remember that were able to continue performing after getting injured. So, yeah. So afterwards, when he won the match, he started doing his pose, but his arm was down, so you could tell, yeah, something's wrong. And then it was revealed that he got injured, since WWE.com reported the next day, at least, that he suffered a shoulder injury during the match, and an MRI revealed that a labrum tore, and that would require surgery, which was successful. Because of this, Finn Balor was expected to be out for 4 to 6 months. Thus, Raw General Manager Mick Foley appeared on Twitter and announced that Finn Balor would be relinquishing his newly won Universal Championship the next night, or the next Raw, due to this injury. And as we know, that happened. He came out, did the honors and whatnot, and the commentators remind everybody that he is still the first ever Universal Championship, and nobody can take that away from him, which is true. And while Kevin Owens would become Universal Champion later, and considering what we saw, WWE was pretty much scrapping all these plans they had for him. Like, they initially were planning to do Brock Lesnar versus Finn Balor, had Finn Balor still been champion, most likely, which actually would have been interesting. And now we don't know what's going to happen at the Royal Rumble. Like, he's teasing an appearance at the Royal Rumble, but he said he probably's not going to perform because he wants to be back at 100%, not come back early in his recovery and risk getting worse, which is completely understandable and perfectly reasonable and also very smart. And everyone just wonders what could have been. Like, originally they were planning to do, I think, another Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor match for the Universal Championship at Clash of Champions, and then Finn Balor would move on to feud with Kevin Owens and subsequently Chris Jericho for the Universal title and keep that. And then I don't know what would have happened afterwards. Like, no idea what would have happened. But it's a major subject to talk about because it's a what if question. Like, what if he didn't get injured that night? What if he was still a Universal Champion? Would he have faced Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble this year? No one knows, and probably we'll never find out. Maybe one day if Finn Balor wants to talk about it in an interview, or if WWE's plans get leaked, we'll probably never know. But it's just one of those things to speculate about. So Finn Balor had a rising momentum only to be horribly crushed, and I'm hoping that he bounces back from all this. Like, he's doing well in his recovery, but I'm hoping that, well, he is able to go back after the Universal Championship and eventually win it again. And I don't know who's going to be Universal Champion at the time when he gets back. Like, rumors have been swirling about Roman Reigns, and then there's also Kevin Owens, and, well, we got those two contenders most likely, so expect another match. Expect a Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor feud, or Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens feud for the Universal title. Could go in an unexpected twist. We'll find out later down the road when he comes back. So, those are my thoughts on Finn Balor's 2016. This was Neo Reality Antenna. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.